Hey there everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of our Let's Play series for Football Manager 2016. Alrighty, so last time around we finished our season, so 15 episodes for a season is not too bad actually. We'll probably actually trim that down in the coming seasons, because we've sort of spent a fair bit of time on tactics and development and things like that, so probably get it around to hopefully down to around maybe 11 or 12 episodes per season would be a good mark. Alrighty, so what we're going to do today, obviously it's the off-season has just started, or the season just finished actually, so off-season hasn't even started yet technically. What I'm going to do today is basically do sort of a bit of a planning session, so it's going to be not a whole lot of action going on, so if that doesn't sort of interest you, then feel free to skip ahead. But yeah, so what we're going to do is, first thing I've actually sort of off camera, I've set up a huge mass of scouting. So what I've done is, I've looked at all the Dutch players that have their contracts expiring within the next sort of few months. So a lot of, obviously a lot of contracts end in 30th of June. There's no one interesting really here that I'm interested in, like no big players that we could potentially pick up. So that's fine. What else we got? There's no real interesting Dutch players transfer listed at the moment either. So there's a few guys here, but no one that I'm really interested in. I've sort of been through a few of these guys before when we sort of scouted them out, and I'm still not really interested in them. So, unfortunately, it looks like Jonathan de Guzman isn't transfer listed at the moment. That may change in the off season when sort of a lot of the clubs do their transfer listing and stuff. I know it's like the season sort of just only finished. So, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. So, also what I've done, I've set up scouting for all of the teams in the first and second Dutch league, so the Eredivisie and the Jupiler League. I've set up scouting. I've set up team reports for their teams. Primarily, on most teams, it's for their under-19 teams. Just to basically, so the idea, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pick up some regions, so Dutch regions, and there's sort of no real foolproof way to do it. So you can sort of do I know some people sort of search by age on here, and do like at most 17 or something to pick up regions, and then sort by like value. That can work. And actually have scouted out the first sort of 20 odd here, just to maybe pick up just in case they sort of fell through the cracks. But a better way that I found to actually do it is actually sort of basically scout the clubs individually. So we're going to for example the Eredivisie, and just the league table. So all I did was just jump into like a team here, team report, and actually see it's already set up here. So the under-19 team. It's not guaranteed to pick up everyone. Potentially really good players could be in the reserves or the first team even really, but given that the regen sort of thing has only just happened, I would be highly suspect that most of them are still going to be under 19s. So we'll do that anyway. So see if that picks up anyone. Also, what I've done is actually scouted out Scandinavia. I've scouted out, for example, I think it's Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden. I've scouted out all teams in the top division, or all the top clubs in the top division of their their respective leagues, and just gotten team reports for them. So basically full teams, so first team, second team, third team, or first team, reserve team, under 19s, whatever you want to call it. I've done that and scouted those out. I've also, for Scandinavian national teams, I've actually scouted out their under 19 and under 21 teams. That's just basically to pick up, but there could be, it's quite unlikely to happen. Generally, sort of really good regions only sort of appear at the bigger clubs because they have the best facilities, all that kind of stuff. But on occasion, good regions do sort of appear at really low league level clubs. So I've actually scouted out these ones, these under 19s and under 21 teams, just in case, just in case something's, one of them has fell through the cracks and they're not in one of the first division clubs. It could be in a second division club or something like that. So that's what I've done. So I'll have a huge amount of scouting coming fairly soon, and I'll sort of shortlist a whole bunch of people that look promising, and then have a closer look at them in the off season, and then look at signing some. So that is good. Alrighty, what else are we going to do? I'm not going to look at training today. I'm going to look at training probably in the off season, or just before the season starts, just before the guys come back to training. Actually, is probably the best time to do it, and we'll set up team training and all that kind of stuff then. Redo all the individual training stuff. It's probably not really. I sort of have had a bit of a look off camera, but it's probably not really a huge benefit to really do it at the moment. So what we're going to do instead is do a little bit of squad planning. Have a look at our first team. Have a look at our second team. Have a look at who we want to promote. Between the teams, maybe like under 19s to B team, and then B team to first team, and then potentially players that we want to get rid of as well. So we're going to do a bit of a squad analysis. So what have we got? So obviously Sillerson is going to be our number 1 keeper, assuming he stays. I hope he does. But yep. So I'm going to assume at the moment that everyone's staying. So obviously there's players like Klaassen and stuff who are wanted, and I'm sure that certain players will get offers in. I'm sure that some are going to go. It's just a natural part of playing Ajax. But I'm going to assume for the moment that everyone's staying, and then we'll sort of if when people go, we'll look at replacements when that happens. Alrighty, so Sillerson's going to be our number 1. I'm thinking I'm actually going to get a different one than Diedrich Boer. I think I'm going to get rid of him. Like, he's obviously a decent keeper. He's only 1.5 stars now. He's 35 years old. He's actually starting to decline quite a bit in a number of his stats, especially his physical, but even some of his mentals starting to come down a bit. So I'm sure he could do the job, but he's on 7.75k a week, which is a fair bit for an Ajax player. For a guy that's really sort of not really going to play a whole lot, I'd rather actually give a game to some of our young guys. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to put him down. I'm actually trying to transfer list him. I'm thinking we'll probably end up going to have to release him. We have to pay a bit of money to do that, but hopefully we'll potentially be able to transfer list him or get rid of him. So I'm going to transfer list him, and I'm going to add to the unwanted list. I'm just going to say sell or release. Yeah, I'll go sell or release. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to double check that I've got the director of football to actually sell out, send out our guys. Where are we? Responsibilities. Here we go. Alrighty. So director of football should. Where are we? Here we are. Offers first team players you've listed for transfer loan to other clubs. That's better. That's what we want. So first, the director of football is going to look after that, which should be good. All right. Cool, so that's done. So I'm going to get rid of Diedrich Boer and bring someone else in. So I'm going to put him back to the B squad so he's not sort of cluttering up our first team. There we go, that's better. Alright, I'm going to actually clear all the selections. There we go, that's better. Cool. Right, so we've got Sillerson is our number 1. We'll look at some replacements in a minute. We've got Van Rijn. A lot of his stats have come down. I'm actually just going to warn him about his training level. If you want to first team football, yep, he hasn't been good enough, so that's fine. He's probably still going to be, I think he's actually probably not going to be necessarily our number 1 starter. Obviously he's had like a really good season. So 7.39 average rating across all competitions, 27 starts, 2 goals, 4 assists, 3 player of the matches. He has done fairly well. 24 years old, but he's not going to improve a whole lot. So he's good enough for a first team start, but I think I'm probably going to basically split the starting time between him and somebody else. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, whether it's going to be Terry. Mr. Terry L, he actually did quite well, really, in his 12 starts and 11 sub-appearances, had a fairly decent rating. Did quite well. He's only 19 years old, probably needs a little bit more development, though, to be a sort of a regular starter. His stats probably really aren't quite there yet. Probably needs another season or so of development, so potentially someone else will be coming in, but we'll have a look at that for a minute. Alrighty, Leroy Owusu is another one that we are looking at. So he can play fullback left or right, so he can play either side. He's a natural right footer though, so we're probably going to means he's going to he's very strong on the right. He's actually fairly strong on the left though, so he can play both. But he's probably given he's better on the right. Given he's better on the right foot, we'll play him on the right. He's actually more developed than Terry L, but his potential isn't quite as big. But his stats actually are a little bit more developed. So I'm thinking what we may do. I'm thinking actually leaving them both in the team. I'm not quite sure yet. Or maybe we'll have to pick between one of them, in which case it'll probably be Leroy. But we'll see about that. Alrighty, left back. So, Boylerson. I think Boylerson's going to be, if he stays, he's going to be our number 1 starter. He actually had a really good season, 7.42 rating. Had some good assists, played really, really well. I know he's a really offensive player, but he actually did do really, really well, I think. And yeah. Dykes had a pretty good season, not quite as good as Boylerson. He's a little bit more of a rounded player, but he doesn't probably have the highs that Boylerson has. So he's a little bit more rounded, but not, his best isn't quite as good. So he had a decent season, played pretty well, played a fair few games, and did quite well. So I'm actually pretty happy to leave both of them as our 2 left fullbacks and rotate both between both of them. Boylerson's only 24 and Dykes is 23, so they're both really, really young. I don't think there's really any benefit to bringing in anyone else or a young player. I think they're, both of them are at least good, easily good enough to actually start on the left. So I'm pretty happy to leave both of them there. Alrighty, centre back. Centre back. He's going to make some decisions at centre back. So what we've got at centre back. Sort by this one. So we have at centre back, we've got Veltman. He's going to be our number one man. So he was out for a fair bit of this season, so his stats have dropped a little bit. He's only 24, so he should be able to bounce back with those fairly quickly. So I'm not too worried about those. Definitely should be still be our first team starter and our best player. So that he's going to be the main man there. And who else have we got here? So Veltman's going to be number one. I think Riedewald is actually going to be our number two. So he actually obviously can play left or centre back, but he's definitely more of a centre back, and that's where his future is going to be. That's what we're training him to be. He had a really good season, I think, personally. For a 19-year-old, he developed really, really well. His strength and stuff came out really well. Some of his technicals and his mentals had some really good performances. So he's actually turning into a really good player, and considering he's actually got some more development to go. So he's 3.5 stars at the moment. He's got 4-star potential, and then that last star is actually black, which means he could even have another full star of development to go, which means he could actually end up being a really great player. So I think Veltman and Riedewald are going to be our first choice centre back pair next time. Then we've got who else have we got? We've got Vigiva. So Vigiva's a little bit of a strange player. He plays a lot of positions, does everything fairly well, but nothing amazingly well. He had a decent season, 7.10. Played a lot of different positions. So if we jump in here, he played 16 games at centre back, 11 at defensive mid, 4 at left back, and 1 at right back. Did fairly well everywhere except defensive mid. So that's probably a little bit of an indication that we shouldn't be playing him there. Obviously, because he's natural at centre and left back, so it's naturally he's going to be a little bit better at those positions anyway. I think defensive mid, we're not going to play him there. So basically, it's going to be whether we need him at centre or left back. I'm thinking he's probably a good squad player, someone who can play sort of all the way across the back and even defensive mid. So it's sort of one of those versatile. It reminds me a little bit of like the John O'Shea for like Man United, who doesn't really excel in anything or didn't really excel in anything, but could play pretty much most positions and do a good job. Do what we needed him to do. So I think we'll keep him around. I think he's a good sort of versatile player to have. He's only 26 years old as well. All that kind of stuff. So we'll definitely keep him, I think. In terms of our other centre-back options, we've got Johnny Heidinger. I'm not really quite sure what we're going to do with Johnny Heidinger. As you can see, he was really starting to deteriorate quite a bit. I'm actually going to tell him his training level hasn't been good enough. Yeah, that's cool. All right. And the problem is he's 32. Some of his physicals are going to start declining a little bit. We're training him on his quickness, so his acceleration pace hopefully doesn't decline too much, but that is going to happen at some stage. So I don't know, guys. I'm not really quite sure whether we're going to keep him. I think probably yes, just for another year, one more year. And sort of basically he's just going to play cup games and lower team Eredivisie games. I don't think he's really going to be there to play like Champions League football anymore, things like that. So yeah, so I think that's one. We'll use him as a tutor because he's a fairly good tutor, like 17 determination. He's spirited personality, which is not amazing, but it is a fairly decent one. He's got some good preferred moves as well. So I think we'll keep him around for one more year. So it's really funny. We've got, 3 centre-backs, isn't it? So we've got Veltman, Riedewald, and Heiting are sort of our first-choice centre-backs. We've got Vigiva can play there. I'm thinking about bringing in another centre-back, though, from the B team. If that happens, I'm not quite sure what that'll mean for Vigiva. He may not get a whole lot of games, but we'll see. Alrighty, so defensive mid. This is probably one of our biggest positions. This and the box-to-box midfield is probably going to be where we have to sort of make some big decisions. So Buzzaware, I think he's going to be our number one first-choice defensive mid. He's only 19 years old, but he's actually done really well. He's developed really well. He's actually 3.5 stars currently. He's actually got 4-star development, and the last star is black. The 5th star is actually black, so could even have another star of development, which means he's going to be a really great player. He's a very well-rounded player, and he's got some really good mentors in here, some good composure, bravery. Decisions and stuff could probably need a little bit of work. May work on that a little bit. Physicals are fairly good. They'll probably improve a little bit given he's only 19. Most of his technicals are okay. We're going to do a little bit of work on tackling and passing. And it's also positioning here, but most of his stuff is really good. He's really good base. I think we're going to make him our first choice defensive mid. So that means that to have a second one, we're basically either going to have Nemanja G's played quite a bit there. So he played 28 games at defensive mid and 9 at centre back, at midfield centre. He actually played better at defensive mid than he did at midfield centre. So that is a little bit interesting because he didn't actually play very well at centre mid. I'm not quite sure whether whether I've got to make him a bit more of an offensive player, like in the Klaassen type role. That's probably what his stats suggest, but he also does have some, like, he's quite rounded. So I'm not quite sure why he didn't really play all that amazingly. It's something I'm going to have a bit of a dig into his stats and stuff a little bit later. What else have we got? So we've got him, and so we've got Buzzaware and Nemanja G, sort of our centre defensive mids potentially. We've also got Donny van den Beek, but he doesn't, like, he's actually fairly well rounded. So I'm almost tossing up making him our second choice defensive mid, only because I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of games at midfield centre, because there is potentially another guy from the B team that I'm looking at bringing in. So because he's still got at least another star of development, probably a little bit more. So he's only 19 years old. He's fairly well rounded, like 12 positioning, 10 marking, 12 tackling. So he's definitely not necessarily an offensive player, and he could be a really good deep playing playmaker. His physical needs a little bit of work though. His strength and like jumping, he's like not amazing heading, which is a bit of a drawback for a defensive mid. But yeah, I'm thinking that's what we'll do. I think we may make the call and have Buzzaware as our number one choice, Donny van den Beek as our second defensive mid. And that's really like our two guys. So basically, I think I mentioned like one of the first episodes, I like to have at least two guys for every position. So well, definitely two guys for every position, and then a few sort of versatile players like Vagiva who can play in multiple positions where we need them to. So we've sorted out most of the positions, so that's defensive mid, so we'll have Buzzaware, and I think Donny van den Beek is going to be our two choice there, which means Nemanja G has to push up into midfield centre somewhere. And we're a little bit crowded through here, so we're going to have to get rid of someone, I think, potentially. So we're going to go for, so look at our tactics. We're looking at our box-to-box midfield role here. We are, I've come back to the squad. So the options we've got Serrero, we've got Nemanja G, and potentially Duarte, but probably not. He's probably too much of an offensive player. His work rate and stuff isn't as good. So I'm actually going to rule him out of there. I'm going to say Nemanja G and Serrero are sort of our two guys in there. Singraven potentially, but his defensive style, I know box-to-box isn't necessarily a defensive player, but I like them to have some decent defensive ratings, and he's only got 4 and 4 in marking and tackling and 5 in positioning, so he's definitely an offensive player. So looking at that, we're sort of looking at Nemanja G and Serrero as our box-to-box. The problem is neither of them actually had very good seasons playing that role. Serrero had played 25 games there for a 6.98 rating, which is, yeah, it's probably just a pass. And I'm not quite sure he's really suited that either. Like he's got great teamwork and work rate, which is probably in his favour. Great stamina as well. It means he covers a lot of the pitch. His marking, tackling, positioning are passable. Yeah, so I'm not sure whether we keep him or we could potentially get rid of him and bring in a young guy, maybe. Whether it's someone from another club or even one of our own guys. We'll look at that. So I'm not quite sure what to do with Nemanja G. Like definitely going to keep him. Like stats wise, he's one of our best players. So I don't think there's not really. I'm not going to get rid of him. But the problem we've got is that we've got Klaassen if he stays. Like if he goes, what probably makes it a lot easier. If Klaassen goes, then it probably makes it easier that we'll probably make Nemanja G our number one attacking centre midfield attack role. So this role here. So that's if Klaassen goes. But assuming he stays, means that we've basically got Klaassen, Nemanja G, and Sinkraven for that one role, which means there's not enough game time for them. Especially as there's sort of basically two starters there in Klaassen and Nemanja G. And basically Sinkraven could almost be a starter. He's not far away from it. Probably not quite. Probably needs one more season. A little bit more development to get his passing and stuff a little off the ball up a little bit. Maybe some of his physicals as well. But yeah, he's sort of knocking on the door. So... Oh no, so we're a little bit overloaded there. I'm actually going to wait and see for a little bit, just see how the transfer window goes. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Klaassen goes, because obviously he's a very good player. He's probably our best team player. I know from experience that a lot of clubs like UFC, Chelsea and Tottenham are interested in him, and that's only going to increase as the season progresses. So that's sort of the midfield that we've looked at there. Duarte, he can play a bunch of... I think he's potentially going to be sort of our versatile player. I think he's definitely more suited to a midfield role. Like he can play sort of on the wing, but I don't think like his pace and stuff probably aren't good enough really. He's got great crossing and stuff though, so I mean we can play him on the wing like the attacking midfielder left. But if we look out there, we've got Victor Fisher, who's probably going to be our number one choice out there, even though he's been out for a long time. Hopefully his stats come back. They should do. He's only 21 years old, so he shouldn't have a problem there. Also got Eunice actually had quite a good season. Probably surprised me. Playing out on the left, he played 24 games and had 7.55 rating. Scored 12 goals and 9 assists. So he actually sort of blew me away. I didn't think he'd perform this well. So we've sort of got Fisher. Sort of the attacking midfield left is basically covered with Fisher and Eunice, which basically rotate between the two of them. That means for out on the right, we've got Nuri, who can play. I mean, he is more of a centre mid player with some of his stats, but he's not going to get a game there yet. I don't think he's quite ready yet to actually get. He's not going to displace Klaassen, Nemanja G. He could, but he's probably just as good, if not a little bit better than Sink Raven. But I don't think he's quite there yet. So I think to get him some games, he's going to play out on the right. And we've also got Shone, who isn't really suited to the right, but he is a natural there, and he did have a very good season there. Scored 15 goals, 11 assists, 5 player of the matches. So he did have a very, very good season playing out on the right. So I think basically we're going to stick with what we've done this season so far. Shone and Nuri out on the right. Victor Fisher and Eunice on the left. And that leaves DJ Melik, who we sort of only brought in as a replacement. I'm not quite sure I'm actually going to keep him, to be honest. Did give him a new contract just as a backup, and I think he may be a B team player again. Don't think he's not good. I don't think he's better than anybody that we've got, so he may sort of be just someone that unfortunately misses out. So that means for our striking, we've got Milik, who's definitely our number one guy. He's our main man by far. 21 goals, 7 assists. Had a great season, even though he was out for quite a while. So he's definitely our number one striker, no doubt about that whatsoever. And that leaves El Ghazi, who is not really a natural striker. Well, he's actually a natural striker, stats-wise. He actually did a lot better than I thought he would. 15 goals, 8 assists. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick with that again. I think I'm going to make him a long-term striker, because he's not a huge power. He's not particularly quick. He's relatively quick. He's not amazingly quick. His finishing's not amazing. Composure's not amazing either. So he's not a traditional sort of striker, but I think he does perform the false 9 deep lying playmaker role quite well, because he really got great dribbling. Passing's not amazing, but he's got some decent off the ball and stuff like that. So I think Milik, El Ghazi is going to be our striking guys there. So that's pretty much everyone covered. There's a few guys here potentially are going to miss out. We have to probably trim our squad a little bit. But we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, I'm going to move down to the B team and have a look at what we've got here, who we can potentially use. So, if we're going to sort by current ability, Victor Fisher, we've already covered him. So, Zivkovic, this is an interesting. He only 19 years old, but he's actually a very, very good player, and I know from previous games, his stats look pretty much the same as what he's had in the previous games. I'm thinking, though, he's going to need one more season of development. I may actually keep him in the B team. I know he played a lot of Eredivisie games, 30 games, which is great for his development. Scored 10 goals, 10 assists, so he actually had a really good season. But I'm thinking for his development, I'd actually rather keep him around, because he needs a bit of work. First touch is his biggest thing. Only for a 10 first touch for a striker is just not good enough. It means he's going to fluff too many balls that come into him, and he's just going to make too many mistakes and not have great first touches and lose the shooting opportunity. So he needs a bit of work on his first touch. Probably need that to be at least 12 or 13. To play the full, he's sort of more of almost a poacher. It's like an advanced forward. He's not really like a creative player. He's got good vision off the ball. His passing probably needs a little bit more work, though, to be a sort of a false 9 deep lying playmaker, which is what we're sort of going to, for the long term, is probably what we're going to play with. So I'm thinking about keeping him around, giving him some games here and there, try and get his development, try and shape his development a little bit more. I'm not quite sure, though, given that he's actually played Eredivisie football this season. So if he goes back to playing a lot of B team games, young Ajax games next season, whether he won't actually improve, which may sort of defeat the whole purpose. I'm not quite sure what to do with him. I can think about that a little bit. Van der Horn, actually. So Van der Horn obviously was the guy that missed out. Actually had a fairly good season in the Turkish club. So he played in the Turkish Superliga. Had 34 appearances, did fairly well, 7 rating. Had a little bit of development as well, which is quite pleasing to see. Unfortunately, I think he's still going to miss out. I don't think he's better than anyone we've got. He's 23, and the problem with him is he's a good, decent player. He could definitely do a job for us, but I don't think he's not going to improve. Is the thing that we're looking for, and his acceleration, agility aren't great. His positioning probably needs to be a little better, and I'm not amazingly wrapped with his passing, his technique either. So, I know necessarily the defenders don't have to have amazing passing and stuff or technical abilities, but I like to for the Ajax way, because we do play out the back and all that kind of stuff. And players like Veltman have got pretty good technique and stuff. It's sort of the players that I'm looking to shape So I unfortunately think we probably have to sell him. He's not really going to be happy playing B team. We could send him out on loan again, but I'm just thinking it's just going to delay the inevitable. I'd rather sort of sell him and see if we can get a little bit of money for him. Could even get, million and a half potentially. He has, he's played a lot of first team games and stuff, so that should be good for his reputation and things. So we'll see about him. Who else have we got? Lucas Anderson. This is a hard one, guys. 21 years old. He looks like he actually is. He's a good player. Unfortunately, it looks like he's been downgraded a little bit this year, which means he's probably not quite as good, which means potentially he's not going to get many games for us. Because unfortunately I don't really see where he fits into the team. Like, he's got some good physicals, like fairly quick, agile. He's got some technical stuff, obviously technique, first touch, passing are all really, really good. Good dribbling. Off the ball is not amazing though, so that's a bit of a problem. Work rate and stuff doesn't have to be amazing, but I don't know. He's more of a sort of a centre mid, like an attacking sort of playmaker. He's basically a playmaker, I think. And we don't really play with a playmaker, though actually I'm tempted to actually change our tactic to actually change the centre mid attack to a playmaker. So we'll see about that. So I'm not sure about Anderson. I'm thinking potentially either one more season of loan football to see how he goes, or sell him, depending on how the transfer goes. I'll keep him around until the end of the transfer window, just in case. But yeah. Quincy Menig, 20 years old. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to go. I think we're going to loan him out for one more season. 20 years old. Don't think he's probably going to be quite good enough for us, but we'll give him one more loan chance. Ruben Legoen, defender at right. I think he's going to be sold, actually, to be honest. 23 years old. He's not going to prove enough. He's a decent player. Definitely play, Eredivisie football, but just not for us. We've got Van Rijn and Kenny L and also Terry, three guys who actually could be better than Ruben. So I think Ruben's going to get sold. We'll see about that though. Leslie Desar, so attacking midfield right, he's going to get sold. He's 23 years old. He's not going to be good enough for us. He's had a few opportunities out on loan and stuff. He didn't have a very good season. Didn't really actually get many game times at Willem too. So we're going to get rid of him, get him off the payroll, and bring some new young guys in. Vaclav Cerny, this is a difficult one. 18 years old. I think he actually could do a job for us. If we gave him a go in the Eredivisie, I think he could actually do a pretty decent job for us. But he's only 18. I'm thinking I'm going to give him one more. Actually going to give him a season of loan football at an Eredivisie club if I can arrange it. So he's only 2-star ability. He's got 4 point, potentially more, so maybe 4.5-star ability. So he's got a huge amount of ability, and his actually stats are pretty good already. So I'm thinking we'll give him a loan at an Eredivisie club. That's what we'll do for him. Getting sort of down to some of the guys who sort of aren't, sort of the young guys who aren't really developed yet. So none of these guys are probably really going to look at breaking into the first team. Jeffrey DeLang, though, I'm not quite sure. I don't think he's not going to be good enough to be our backup goalkeeper. 18 years old. He's still got a bit of development to go, though, so I don't know. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with our backup goalkeeper. I don't think there's probably really anyone currently in the team who's good enough. We've got Jeffrey DeLang, Stan Van Bludderen. They're both sort of 18. Neither of them are actually quite good enough yet to play in the Eredivisie and things like that. So we've got a few choices. Either we keep Diedrich Boyer, which I don't really want to do because I don't know, I just don't think he's probably quite good enough anymore. Or we bring in like a young and better player with a view that Silison's probably going to get sold at some stage in the next couple of seasons. They're probably going to get an offer for him at some stage that we can't refuse. So we may look at doing that. Moro Savastano, I think he's going to be quite a good player, 19 years old, probably needs quite a bit more development though, so he hasn't developed quite as well as I would have liked this season, so I may potentially look at giving him a loan at a Eredivisie club to get him a better match experience, to get his abilities up. We've also got Gino Decker, is attacking midfield left, a lot of potential as well. He's probably needs more games. Actually didn't play a whole lot in the Jupiler League, which is a little bit disappointing. Only got 7 starts, 17 games. So potentially look at a loan for him, or maybe give him another season of second tier football. But yeah, not sure. So sort of not really a whole lot of guys in here yet that potentially that we are really going to use in our first team. Most of them probably need another season of football. So there's not really anyone that stands out to me that really sort of jumps out that we can, sort of really promote straight away. But we'll sort of keep an eye on that. Probably Zivkovic is one of them. I think he would be a good player, but obviously we've got Milik and El Ghazi is going to be our main two, so he's not really going to get a whole lot of games. I don't know. Alrighty, under 19s, how are we going here? What are we looking at? So Che Nunnally. He's probably good enough to play second tier football. So I'll probably promote him, I think. We'll put him up to the B team. Who else have we got here? Mies Dewitt. 18-year-old attacking mid for the left. He's probably good enough as well to play B team football, Jupiler League football, I think. So we'll put him up for a season, see how he goes. Francesco Antonucci. So he's only 16, but he's got some really quite good stats. I'm thinking I'm going to leave him in here for at least half a season, see how he goes. If he's sort of killing it and he's not developing as well, like he's had some really good development though, which shows he's probably not, he hasn't like petered out, so he hasn't hit like the threreshold. So sometimes you sort of, if you leave players in at certain levels for too long, they'll stop developing, but obviously he's getting some development, so he's doing okay. So we'll leave him in here for half a season. We'll check in him halfway through next season. If he's sort of petered out or he's killing the under-19s, we're moving up to the Jupiler League, but yeah. So obviously, like as you can see, he actually played like 9 subs starts in the Jupiler League anyway. So obviously, the Jupiler League, the young Ajax team can actually take players from the under-19s without actually like my involvement. So they just do that if they need the numbers, which is why I'm usually not worried about having a little bit short in numbers in the B team, because it means that some of our under-19s are actually going to get second tier football, which is good for their development. So it's usually the reason I'm not too fussed about having like a fully fleshed squad in here, because it does give opportunities to our young guys. So I'm not looking at like ability-wise. There's really not really anyone else that I'm looking at here. That really needs promoting. There's some under 18-year-old guys that probably get promoted automatically, but none of them have really got really sort of high ceilings or anything. So I'm probably leave them in the B team for a season and then probably get them rid of them if they don't sort of develop. So. Alright guys, 31.5 minutes of the episode. I've rambled on for way too long probably. Hopefully that wasn't massively boring for you guys, but it's just sort of working through this out in my head. So we actually don't have a huge amount of spots in our team, but we're probably going to have, what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to be a little bit more aggressive in the transfer market. I'm suspecting we have a fairly decent transfer budget. We've got 12 million because we basically didn't spend anything this season. We've actually got 35 million sitting in the bank. That's without like next season's money and Champions League football and all that kind of stuff. So I'm expecting we're going to have a fairly healthy transfer budget. So I'm actually going to look at bringing in some better Dutch players, like even some that are playing in other leagues. Players like the Jonathan de Guzman and players like that who are actually probably better than the players we've got, and sort of actually start bringing some of those guys in and look at building like a better team. So obviously we want to continue the development, but the problem that you can have with Ajax is you get stuck in a cycle of developing players up and then they get sold, and you don't actually get the benefit of them in terms of like Champions League. So you've got to sort of start slowly bringing in some more established players and make it a little bit more balanced. So not just like wholly just developing players, which is basically what we've got at the moment. The only player that we've got which is anywhere near 30 is Shone, and then under him, apart from the goalkeeper, the goalkeepers obviously because they're usually a bit older. But for outfield players, I think the next one in line is actually Vigevo, who's only 26. So I've got a very, very young team. So we're actually going to start bringing in a bit more experienced players that we can use for tutoring, and also that should give us some bit more better performances over the course of the season. So we're going to look at that. Alrighty guys, next time around, I'm actually going to start running through the off season, getting some weeks and stuff passing by, see how the transfer window goes, see if there's anyone we want to look at picking up, and get all that scouting and stuff done so we can actually start looking at planning for some moves and things like that. So that should be a lot of fun. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you're enjoying this series. As always, it'd be amazing if you could subscribe to the channel and like the video. That would be enormously appreciated. Alright guys, hope you all had a wonderful day, and I'll see you all soon.